what I want to go over is how to select flies for the systems that we've talked about. I'm not going to try to pick out a fly for you for a single day or a type of river or anything like that, but there's flies designed to do specific things, and frequently they're used wrong. I mean, the beadhead era came out, and it seems like that everybody wanted a beadhead for no matter what. They just had to have a beadhead or whatever that situation is, but there's reasons you have beadheads, and there's reasons you have antron on a fly, and there's reasons you do all sorts of things, but basically you've got to adapt that fly to the system you're going to use. And I'll just give you a couple examples here. Day in, day out, I'm going to fish an olive hare's ear. If I had one fly, that would be it. But if I have an olive hare's ear, for example, right here, and right here I have an olive hare's ear beadhead, and they're the same fly, but one fly is going to ride deeper than the other one, obviously. Well, that's fine if you want to be on the bottom, but if you don't want to be on the bottom, obviously you don't want the hare's ear with the beadhead. And many of these flies have been designed to do something specific, and many of them are designed to be kind of general attractors. For example, this is a lightning bug. Take your flashier flies and put them up above your lead, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to simulate a pocket of gas on the bug as it's going up. You know, LaFontaine talked a lot about the gassy bubble around the caddis. Well, a lot of people think when the mayfly ascends through the water that they get the same reflective value, and that's why these brighter flies work well. So when you're looking at the flies and you're looking to set your system up, just remember what you're trying to establish here. If you've got an emergent caddis like this one here, he's got a little, and they'll almost always, when you look at them, it'll tell you what they're trying to do. This one here has a little shell back over the top, and it's supposed to be looking like that gassy bubble that the caddis has in its ectoskeleton. It's coming through. It's supposed to be reflective. So that fly is going to be really good in the mid-depths, you know, like he's coming through the water. And then if you're going to fish one underneath it, you've got the same thing right here. This little caddis is supposed to be the same bug. It's a beadhead, but you can see it's not very reflective. And of course, this is supposed to be the larva stage of the caddis. So that would be a really good combo. You wouldn't have to know anything about the bugs themselves. You just look at it and say, okay, I'm going to fish two flies. I'm going to have this one on the bottom. It's a beadhead. This is a non-beadhead right here. It's got a little bubble on top of him. I'll fish him above. So it makes sense if you understand the system that if there's a split shot on the bottom and you got a fly down below that you want close to the bottom, that's when you'd use a beadhead. Now, if you've got a fly above that and it's on a dropper, or rather it's in line, no matter what, if it's above the lead, obviously you're going to want something that looks like it's ascending. And I'll just show you an example of that. Let's say that we're going to have the hare's ear on the bottom, or let's use a pheasant tail because I've got one right here. We've got a pheasant tail on the bottom, a beadhead pheasant tail. Okay, so we come up here, we've got our split shot, and then your line's going up and you've got a fly ascending. So I'm going to want something that is above it. So what I grabbed here, that's a little bit more emerger type fly, this is a soft hackle pheasant tail. It's a brown soft hackle pheasant tail, but you can see by the design, A, there's no bead on it, and B, it's got a little wispy wing and hackle on here, and it's supposed to look like something going through the water column. And that's what you're trying to look for when you're selecting flies for this system. I hear it in my shop frequently that beadhead comes up, and it's like we almost have to have a beadhead to be in the West, and it's not true. I fish very few beadheads personally because I don't like anything that sinks. I like to have the lead take the fly to the bottom. And then you've got a whole series of flies when you get out of the mayflies going to the caddis. Now you know as the caddis emerges, it comes through the water column very quickly. So to have a caddis on the bottom is fine if it's going to be a larva, but if it's going to ascend through the water, of course, for example, here's a crystal serendipity. Okay? Crystal serendipities are supposed to be emergent caddis or emergent midge. I've got two of them right here. the same fly. One's a beadhead, one's just a standard crystal serendipity. If it was me fishing, if I had the beadheads, I wouldn't want it up high. I'd want it, because it's going to fight. It's going to constantly be trying to go to the bottom. It's going to go underneath my lead. Maybe not under it, but it's definitely not going to float as high as the one without. They've got a little deer hair head. Obviously, originally when it was designed to be up in the water column. So I'm just showing you a general way of looking at the flies. I know that weighted flies are very popular, especially in the West where, you know, the big stone flies, but personally, I don't like to fish them. And since how it's my DVD, I can say that. I like flies that are unweighted. I don't care what they are, what kind of fly, but the systems that we've talked about all incorporate some sort of split shot or some weight to get the fly to the bottom. And the difference is in a heavily weighted fly is that it's heavy. One's light, one's not so light. This fly is going to go to the bottom and it's going to catch on the bottom. It's as heavy as the split shot. So if you've got a split shot on and you've got a big heavy fly down below it, the fly is going to be hung up a lot more than one that's like this. And the key is to understand that the fish isn't looking for the fly, it's looking for something dislodged. Day in, day out, I'll take an unweighted fly. I'll still put it below because it's going to have the lead on it up above. It's still going to be really close to the bottom, but I'm going to get some movement out of the fly. So I come to a fly bin looking to buy flies. I've got this giant golden stone here, and then I've got this one right here, supposedly the same thing, obviously a little different color, but this one's got a big old heavy weight on it. This one has none. I think this outfishes this one more often than not because it's sitting where it belongs. This fly is going to get to bottom quicker, sure, but I've already got the split shot on, so I'm going to use the unweighted fly and hope that it floats a little bit more. It's going to get a little more undulation. It's going to be in the water, moving around, looking a little more distressed because it's broke loose from the bottom. When these big stone flies are dead on the bottom, they're almost impossible for the fish to get. And as you can see, it's pretty heavy. It's going to go down quick. So I like to take the system that we've talked about, make the weight do the job, and put the fly lighter and keep it above that lead.